My idea about money when we met, which was only 6 years ago, was I just want to have it and not ever look at it. I want to have enough, and I don't ever want to have to mess with it. I want to go in the grocery store, buy what I want to buy, and not have to take it off a budget.
I do remember that conversation. You're like, I don't even want to see any statements.
Right?
Welcome to Becoming Virtuosa, the podcast that encourages you to become your best virtuosa self. Each week, Dr. Susan Crockett goes where the scalpel can't reach, exploring conversations about how to be, heal, love, give, grow, pray, and attune. For the first time ever, she's bringing the personal one-on-one teaching that she shares with individual patients to you on this broader platform. A weekly source of inspiration and encouragement designed to empower you. By evolving ourselves as individuals, we influence and transform the world around us. Please help me welcome board-certified OB-GYN specializing in minimally invasive GYN surgery, internationally in the top 1% of all GYN robotic surgeons, a certified life coach, and U.S. News top doctor, your host, Susan A. Crockett, MD.
I'm so excited today to be joined by my special guest and friend, Hugh Hale III.
I am so happy to be here.
I know, it's so awesome. This has been a long time coming. So Hugh and I have known each other for the past 6 years or so. He's been my financial advisor. We're going to talk a little bit about that and the emotions of money today, because y'all, I've been through it. And I know a lot of y'all have been too. And Hugh here is an expert in it. In fact, he is the president and CEO of Financial Architects, and he is the managing director for oXYGgen Financial. Welcome, Hugh.
Thank you, Sue. Or is it Dr. Sue?
It's Dr. Crockett.
Dr.
You can call me Sue. You can call me Dr. Sue.
Okay.
I go by many names.
Dr. Sue, medicine woman.
That's it. So you've got all these titles, and I only knew what you've done for me, like in the background, but explain for our audience a little bit about the different businesses that you run and the different hats that you wear and how they integrate together. Kind of tell me what you do.
Wow. What do I do? So I started Financial Architects in 2010, and that company is exactly what it says. I'm a tax architect. So we have our insurance services. We have a benefits company that we do employee benefits. And really in that job, I stand between the end user and the CPA.
So I would be the end user,
yes.
And my accountant is
Let's
the
say the
CPA,
client.
the client.
The client, the end user.
I'm the end user.
Wow.
All this jargon. Okay, so you are the go-between, kind of the creative director in between the accounting and the person.
Well, just to be more specific, you know, CPAs are wonderful. They keep you out of jail, but they put numbers in boxes. If they're not business-minded, there are some that are quite business-minded, but my job is to use the tax code so that people can, you know, keep more of what they earn.
Interesting. Legally. Yes, very legally.
Totally legal.
Okay, and then the other business, the oXYGgen?
Yeah. So oXYGgen Financial, the president CEO is Ted Jenkins. It's about a 13, 14-year-old company based out of Alpharetta, Georgia. And I'm not sure how many offices we got, but it's the securities part of our business.
So
the investment side, yes. We have split the two.
Yeah, into separate things.
Chinese wall.
Okay. So when I met you, I was at a really, really low place in my life. I think I was introduced to you by another physician friend. Mm-hmm. Actually, we were sitting talking in the doctor's lounge one day. Another surgery friend. He's like, "Oh, you got to meet my guy because he takes really good care of me." And I was in the wake of the passing of my ex-husband, the father of my kids, and just in an emotional state, but also a financial state where I just had this flying by the seat of my pants and trying to get through one day at a time kind of thing. Do you remember that first conversation where we talked on the phone and I started telling you my backstory and you were just like, oh my gosh.
I do.
And I was and then this happened and then it flooded and then my business got broken into. And then
I was like, wow.
I know. I remember
It was like
that.
a story from the Old Testament.
It was terrible.
It was just
One tragedy after another. Like, how bad could it get? I think your heart just kind of broke for me. You're like, oh gosh, I got to help this poor girl. And so I was there as the mother of my 4 children with their dad just having passed. And all of a sudden I had all the financial responsibility from his will and taking care of my kids. And there were all of these accounts. I was just overwhelmed. And you were my knight in shining armor. I mean, honestly, he's like, I got it. You helped me get all the accounts set up. You helped get them set up correctly so that the tax implications for the transfers of the benefits from the IRAs were done correctly. I remember you going to bat for me with the bankers and the accountants. Like, you really just were my in-between. And then you also got my liability insurance for my practice set up correctly. So, I'm a surgeon. My hands kind of need to be protected. You were like, you know what? You're not protected if something happens to your hands. Let me help you with that too. And so I'm really grateful for what you've done for me.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't know if you remembered all of that.
Oh, I totally remember it. I totally remember it because at the end you were like, well, just send me your information.
Yeah.
You were kind of in that place where you didn't know who to trust.
Yeah.
And you knew how important this was for not only you, but for your family. Mm-hmm. And so you didn't want to make a mistake.
Yeah.
After a series of just what I would call traumatic events.
Yes.
And you were like, please don't let this be one more traumatic event. Yeah. I hope I have the right person.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to kill that doctor.
I know. I'm going to be like, So here we are 6 years later in such a different place. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, for my listeners, my personal journey and how you've helped me go from scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset with money, and how I've gone from shame about managing money, which was kind of my upbringing, pre-programmed idea about finances, to now a place of empowerment. So, yeah. I bet you see this a lot.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. I think this is especially important to women, but I don't think it's only a specific thing for women. I think this is something that men need to hear too, about being able to look at our money. How do we figure out what to do with it? How do we manage our emotions and our relationship with money?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it is a relationship that anyone has with money.
I think that's such an odd concept for people. Sometimes when I start telling people about that, they look at me like they'd never heard of that before. So tell me a little bit more about how you think about that, or how you teach people about that idea of money as a relationship.
Money's a part of our life. And, men use it to gauge their success, good or bad. I mean, that's just in America at least, that's, how we define success, or the measuring stick.
Our worth, our self-worth.
Well, truly. Yeah, true. And it's interesting because you take how you were raised and how your parents' viewpoints of money, mm-hmm. and some people grew up in a scarcity mindset or been poor.
Yeah.
And then they evolve and they get educated and they have a profession, and they may not be used to the responsibility of that.
Yeah. So that was totally me. I had a very nice upbringing with my family, but I didn't grow up wealthy. And we grew up on tight budgets and buying clothes at Wieners and, counting the money in the supermarket, to make sure that we had enough at the checkout type of thing. Like, we would check the prices on the cans and stuff. And not that that's a bad thing at all, but the thought behind it was not, I'm being diligent and managing. It was, I hope I have enough because I don't have enough. And so there was always this consciousness to spend less. And one thing that I learned as I got older was profit margin is the difference between making more and spending less, right? You can expand how much you have by making more. And so my mindset changed from I don't have enough. And that carried through, by the way, well into the point at which many people would say I had plenty. It was still very tight budget, hang on to it, control it, be controlled by it. That carried well into my marriage years until I got to the place where I was like, instead of saying we can't afford that, I started replacing it with the phrase, how can I afford that. How can I make enough money to
How
afford
can I
that?
not afford that?
How can I not afford that, right?
Well, money's a tool, right? I mean, it's a tool. And you have to invest in yourself and your business, and you want to make sure that your family has what they need, and then you talk about, do we have too much? Do we have too little? Am I spoiling them? I mean, it's all these emotions that go into the money because, people use money to parent. It's lazy parenting, but they do. Here's some money.
Yep.
I'll see you in 30 days. Behave yourself. And then here's another 30 days. But what's interesting about your story is, and I know your story, but it creates a lot of guilt.
Yep.
In how you view the money.
Yeah, shame. Like my idea about money when we met, which was only 6 years ago, was I just want to have it and not ever look at it. I want to have enough, and I don't ever want to have to mess with it. I want to go in the grocery store, buy what I want to buy, and not have to take it off a budget.
I do remember that conversation. You're like, I don't even want to see any statements.
Right? I was.
It was like...
I was like, Hugh, it's like
denial.
air.
It was like denial. I just, please. No statements.
I was like, it's air. I just want to breathe it in, breathe it out, just to make sure I have enough.
It's like, don't send me any statements or you're fired immediately.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to. It's called the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah. So, doesn't mean I have to look at it. No.
You don't.
But I did. So, yeah, when we started working together, I had a lot of guilt and shame around money. I'd been told that I didn't know what I was doing with it and that I was bad at it and I was a woman and men are meant to do that. And like all of a sudden, something in me started going, I got to figure this out. So I started working on it, but really, I got to tell you, the thing that got me through the guilt and the shame was something that should have been really, really tragic, which was my divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the divorce that I just went through, during that divorce, the opposing attorney had me pull all of my financial documents, every statement, every penny I had spent going back into my marriage with my first husband. 10 years worth. Almost 10 years. It's crazy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you're a hoarder? You found that information?
I tell you what, God bless the people at my bank and every institution that pulled yours. You pulled scads and like inches of financial statements.
Thank you, Eric Davidson.
Yes, thank you, Eric Davidson and M&G Bank.
Did you find Jimmy Hoffa while you're at?
Oh my gosh. That was the most intimidating thing because I was forced to go back through and look at what I had done, what I had spent, what I had been responsible for over those 10 years. And I did it with the grace of an amazing forensic accountant. And it was a 5,000-page document. That was the report that we turned in.
Well, the big question is, what did you learn? Did you learn something?
Yeah, you know what I learned? I didn't do that bad. I wasn't perfect, but I did a really good job at a lot of things. And having to look at it kind of desensitized me because day after day, month after month, this divorce, it went through like almost 2.5 years. So during that time, I got desensitized
You got a master's degree?
I got a master's degree in divorce finance, probably. So through what should have been just this horrible process, what happened to me was tremendous growth to the point that I was able to look at my finances and they became a neutral circumstance. And the thought in my head turned from being one of shame and guilt to empowerment. And okay, I can look at this now. I'm not perfect with my money now, but it doesn't carry that anxiety when I look at it anymore. I'm not always thinking, oh, the ship is sinking and I'm going to die because money.
You actually open the statements now? Is that what you're saying?
No. Yes, I do. Sometimes. Yeah.
I just call Hugh. Don't tell me.
Just like,
am I good?
Is it
You're good?
It's okay.
You're good. Okay, I got to go now.
I got to go now. Got to go do another business.
Yeah, do some.
Got to go do more doctoring and fix more people.
It's interesting you bring that up because I know, I'm not in the medical profession. I'm not a doctor, but your patients are intimidated to come see you and talk about their problems.
Yeah.
The women that come see you, they're probably, some are embarrassed. Some don't know what to think. They're looking for answers. Mm-hmm. And they may be carrying things from a previous doctor or how they grew up, and they don't know what to expect because every person has a different personality and a different way they approach their medical practice, and women.
Right.
Oh, and you happen to be one.
Yeah.
So, they're bringing those previous experiences and, biases, whatever they are, to you when they initially meet you. So it's kind of interesting. The same thing works in my business.
Yeah.
They may have had a good experience or a bad experience, or with the advent of, the intranet, people can Google, that happens to me all the time. Oh, I watched nothing wrong with Dave Ramsey. I agree with some of his things, his ideas, some I don't. But there's so much information out there when it comes to finances.
Yeah. And so sometimes you find people coming in saying, hey, I found you online and I need help sorting out my finances and making them right. Is that what happens?
Well, they do check you out. And then they also, the information you give them, then they go back and they start reading about it.
And then they learn a little bit more and figure it out. Yeah. I see that being very similar with the way I practice medicine. Somebody will come in and I'll give them a bunch of information and options, and then they'll go home and Google and come back and chat with me to decide what to do about things.
Oh, I was reading about this, and this is what this person says, and everyone's got a different take on it, positive and negative, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's not a one-size-fits-all.
And that's where you being kind of a financial architect comes in, is you get to create what works for each client.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great name because, you're kind of building a house, right? And from the, you got to have the foundation laid, which means that you got to have your disability, and you got to make sure that you have your property and casualty, and then, you got to have your life insurance, and then, you have the middle, the drywall, if you will, the meat of the house, which is your investments and the returns, and making sure that your risk is spread properly and that why you own what you own.
Exactly, right.
And then the top tier, the roof, is the estate planning, the legacy.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave for your family? The causes that you believe in. Because I believe that, we all want our children to be secure.
Right.
And our family to be secure, but we also want our lives to mean something.
Yep.
So if you live in that place of abundance, then my belief is this: you got to come from a place of gratitude.
Absolutely. That makes all the difference.
First and foremost,
yes.
you got to be grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
And that's not comparing to other people. Some people have less, some people have more, but you've just got to have an awareness that you're blessed.
Yeah.
And once you come from that place, then you can move in a positive direction.
Of abundance.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom. Thank you, Hugh, for joining us today. This has been an amazing conversation, and I'd love to have you come back another time, and maybe our viewers will have some other topics for him. In the meantime, if they want to contact you, how would they find you?
Well, they can always call the office. Our information's on the oXYGgen Financial website. And
we'll include that in the show notes also. We'll put all of your contact information down below in the show notes.
And they can always email me at hale@oxygenfinancial.net.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Hugh.
Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome.
Enjoyed it.
Me too. Thanks for listening to this episode of Becoming Virtuosa. To learn more, come visit us at drcrockett.com. That's drcrockett with 2 T's.com. Or find us on YouTube for The Dr. Crockett Show. If you found this episode helpful or think it might help someone else, please like, subscribe, and share. This is how we grow together. Thanks, and I'll see you next week. Love always, Sue.